September 15, 1943. 0347 hours Wolfschanze, East Prussia. Oberst Heinrich Kellerman crushed his cigarette beneath his polished boot, the amber glow dying in the pre-dawn darkness as he stared at the encrypted teletype message that had just arrived from Army Group Center. The words seemed to blur together as he read them a third time, his hands trembling slightly, not from the cold Baltic air, but from the implications of what lay before him. American forces had simultaneously launched coordinated operations across 3 separate theaters, each precisely timed to maximize German confusion and minimize their ability to respond effectively. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Kellerman had served the Wehrmacht for 18 years, rising through the ranks during the Polish campaign, the lightning victory in France, and the initial triumphant advance into the Soviet Union. He understood military coordination, had witnessed the methodical precision of German staff work that had conquered most of Europe. But what he was reading challenged everything he thought he knew about American capability. The teletype described simultaneous American actions in Italy, the Pacific, and preparations for something massive building in England, all coordinated with mathematical precision that defied explanation. The German High Command had established Wolfschanze as the ultimate expression of military organization. Hidden deep in the East Prussian forests, the concrete bunkers and communication centers represented the pinnacle of centralized control. From here, the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht directed operations across continents, maintained contact with army groups from North Africa to the Arctic Circle, coordinated the movement of millions of men and thousands of tanks. The system had proven its worth in the early years of the war when German forces moved with clockwork precision across multiple fronts simultaneously. But now, as Kellerman walked through the underground corridors toward the morning briefing, he carried evidence that the Americans had somehow mastered the same art of multi-front coordination that had given Germany its early victories. The difference was scale. Where Germany coordinated across European distances, the Americans were doing it across oceans, synchronizing operations separated by thousands of miles with timing that suggested capabilities the German staff had never imagined possible. General der Infanterie Klaus Reinhardt commanded the Strategic Assessment Division, a unit created specifically to analyze enemy capabilities and predict their intentions. Reinhardt had earned his reputation during the 1940 campaign, when his assessments of French defensive positions proved devastatingly accurate. His staff occupied a dedicated bunker complex equipped with the most sophisticated communication equipment available to the Reich, direct lines to every major command from Norway to North Africa, radio intercept stations, and a team of analysts who worked around the clock processing intelligence reports. When Kellerman entered the briefing room at precisely 0400 hours, Reinhardt was already studying a massive map table that dominated the center of the concrete chamber. Red pins marked known American positions across the globe, blue arrows indicated recent movements, and yellow flags designated areas where intelligence suggested impending operations. What struck Kellerman immediately was the pattern. The Americans weren't simply reacting to German moves or pursuing isolated objectives, they were conducting a global chess game, each move calculated to support operations occurring simultaneously thousands of miles away. Reinhardt looked up from the map table, his weathered face showing the strain of sleepless nights spent analyzing reports that challenged fundamental assumptions about American military organization. He had spent the previous week attempting to understand how the Americans could coordinate operations across such vast distances with timing that seemed impossible given the limitations of communication technology available in 1943. The general gestured toward the map with his cigarette holder, pointing to positions that formed a pattern stretching from the Mediterranean to the Central Pacific. The intelligence reports painted a picture that defied German understanding of American military doctrine. In Italy, American forces under General Mark Harrison had launched coordinated operations that seemed designed not just to advance up the peninsula, but to force German units to commit reserves that would be unavailable for operations elsewhere. Simultaneously, in the Pacific, Admiral Chester Morrison was directing naval operations that required precise coordination between surface fleets, submarine forces, and land-based aircraft across distances that strained the imagination. Most disturbing was the intelligence flowing in from England. German reconnaissance flights had been systematically intercepted, but the fragments of information gathered suggested an American buildup of staggering proportions, not just men and equipment, but the infrastructure necessary to coordinate multiple simultaneous operations. The Americans appeared to be constructing communication networks, supply systems, and command structures capable of directing forces across multiple theaters with unified purpose. Reinhardt had ordered his best analysts to examine captured American documents, interview prisoners, and study intercepted communications. What they discovered challenged everything the German High Command understood about military organization. The Americans had created staff systems that seemed to function independently of traditional command hierarchies. While German coordination required direct communication between Army group commanders and the High Command, the Americans had developed procedures that allowed subordinate units to coordinate directly with each other across theater boundaries. Major Friedrich Steinberg, Reinhardt's senior intelligence analyst, had spent 3 years studying American military publications captured during the North African campaign. Steinberg possessed a rare combination of tactical expertise and linguistic ability that made him invaluable for understanding enemy doctrine. His analysis of American staff procedures revealed organizational innovations that the German military had never considered. The Americans had created specialized coordination units whose sole purpose was maintaining communication between theaters, ensuring that operations in one area supported objectives in another. The morning briefing began with Steinberg's assessment of American logistics capabilities. The numbers he presented seemed fabricated, impossibly large to be accurate. American industrial production had reached levels that dwarfed German capacity, but more importantly, they had created distribution systems capable of sustaining simultaneous operations across multiple continents. Liberty ships were arriving in English ports at a rate that suggested the Americans could supply an invasion force while simultaneously maintaining operations in Italy and the Pacific. Kellerman studied the production figures with growing unease. German intelligence had tracked American aircraft production, ship construction, and military manufacturing throughout 1943. The numbers showed capabilities that exceeded anything achieved by any nation in military. But the Americans weren't simply producing equipment in unprecedented quantities, they were creating integrated systems that allowed simultaneous deployment across global distances. Fighter aircraft manufactured in Detroit were appearing simultaneously in England, Italy, and Pacific air bases, suggesting supply chains of incredible sophistication. The communication intercepts proved even more disturbing. German monitoring stations had captured fragments of American radio traffic that revealed coordination procedures beyond German capabilities. American commanders in Italy were receiving real-time intelligence from operations in the Pacific. Strategic decisions made in Washington were being implemented simultaneously across multiple theaters within hours rather than days or weeks. The Americans had somehow solved problems of global military coordination that German theorists had considered impossible. Reinhardt's analysis focused on timing patterns that revealed American strategic thinking. Operations in Italy consistently began shortly before major Pacific operations, forcing German attention and resources toward Europe while American naval forces achieved surprise in the Pacific. When German reserves moved to reinforce threatened sectors, American operations would suddenly shift focus, leaving German forces committed to defending areas that were no longer under immediate attack. The pattern suggested strategic thinking that operated on timescales beyond traditional militaries. While German operations typically focused on immediate tactical objectives with strategic implications considered secondarily, American operations seemed designed with strategic objectives that influenced tactical decisions across multiple theaters simultaneously. Every American action appeared calculated to influence German decision-making in ways that benefited American operations occurring elsewhere. Colonel Werner Hoffmann commanded the Wehrmacht's Communication Intelligence Division, responsible for intercepting and analyzing enemy communications. Hoffmann had personally supervised the installation of monitoring equipment across German-occupied Europe, creating a network capable of intercepting radio communications from Scandinavia to North Africa. His stations had successfully broken several Allied codes, providing intelligence that had influenced major operational decisions. But American communication patterns were revealing capabilities that concerned him deeply. The Americans had developed communication procedures that maintained coordination while revealing minimal information to interceptors. German monitoring stations could determine that extensive communication was occurring between American commands, but the content remained largely encrypted. More significantly, the volume of communications suggested organizational structures of unprecedented. While American headquarters were maintaining simultaneous contact with subordinate units across multiple theaters while coordinating with naval, air, and ground forces independently. German communication doctrine emphasized centralized control with clear hierarchical structures. Orders flowed downward from Army Group headquarters to corps, division, and regimental commanders in clearly defined chains. American communications revealed organizations that seemed to function with multiple parallel command structures, allowing horizontal coordination between units that would normally communicate only through higher headquarters. The implications were staggering for traditional concepts of military control and coordination. Hoffman's intercept teams had identified American communication networks that spanned continents. Radio stations in Washington maintained direct contact with commands in England, Italy, and the Pacific simultaneously. But more concerning was evidence of coordination between American units that appeared to operate independently of central control. Infantry divisions in Italy were coordinating directly with naval units in the Pacific, sharing intelligence and timing operations without apparent oversight from high headquarters. The technical capabilities required for such coordination exceeded anything available to German forces. American radio equipment apparently possessed range and reliability that allowed global communications under conditions that would disable German equipment.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
German communication with Africa required relay stations in favorable atmospheric conditions. American communications seemed to function reliably regardless of atmospheric interference, distance, or electromagnetic disruption. Lieutenant Colonel Andreas Moeller specialized in analyzing enemy organizational structures based on communication patterns, unit movements, and logistics requirements. Moeller had successfully predicted German operational capabilities during the early war years by studying staff organization and supply systems. His analysis of American military organization revealed innovations that challenged fundamental assumptions about command structure and operational control. Traditional German military theory emphasized unified command with clear responsibility hierarchies. Every unit had a single commander responsible for all decisions within his area of authority. American organizations seemed to function with distributed authority systems where multiple commanders shared responsibility for different aspects of the same operation. Infantry commanders coordinated with naval officers, Air Force planners worked directly with ground unit staffs, and logistics officers maintained independent communication with multiple theaters simultaneously. The implications were profound for military effectiveness. German coordination required extensive communication between hierarchical levels, creating delays and information bottlenecks during complex operations. American systems seemed designed to eliminate hierarchical delays by allowing direct coordination between operational units regardless of traditional command boundaries. The result was operational tempo that exceeded anything achieved by German forces even during their most successful campaigns. Moeller's analysis revealed American staff systems that seemed to anticipate coordination requirements rather than simply responding to immediate operational needs. German staffs excelled at solving problems as they developed, adapting plans based on changing circumstances. American staffs appeared to create comprehensive coordination plans that anticipated multiple contingencies simultaneously, reducing the need for extensive communication during operations. The logistics implications were staggering. German supply systems required constant communication between supply units and operational commanders to maintain effective support. American systems seemed designed to function with minimal communication, suggesting supply organizations that could anticipate requirements and adjust deliveries without constant direction from operational commanders. The result was sustained operations across multiple theaters without the logistics bottlenecks that had consistently limited German operational capabilities. General Reinhardt's morning assessment summarized intelligence that painted a picture of American militaries. The Americans had industrialized military coordination in ways that transformed traditional concepts of operational limitation. Where German forces could conduct major operations in one theater while maintaining defensive positions elsewhere, the resource implications were incomprehensible. German strategic planning assumed limited resources that required incorporated allocation between competing operational requirements. American operations seemed to assume unlimited resources that eliminated the need to choose between alternative operations. Instead of allocating limited forces between competing objectives, American planners seemed to assign adequate forces to multiple objectives simultaneously. Kellerman studied the intelligence summaries with growing recognition that Germany faced strategic challenges beyond anything encountered during the early war years. The Wehrmacht had achieved its early successes through superior coordination and tactical innovation applied against enemies with limited coordination capabilities. American military capabilities suggested opponents who had matched German organizational innovations while adding industrial and technical capabilities that exceeded German resources by orders of magnitude. The strategic implications were clear even if the immediate tactical consequences remained uncertain. Germany's early victories had resulted from facing opponents who could not coordinate effectively across multiple theaters, allowing German forces to achieve local superiority through superior precision and timing. American capabilities suggested opponents who could not only match German coordination but exceed it while simultaneously maintaining superior force levels across multiple theaters. Major Wilhelm Gottfried commanded the Foreign Army's West Intelligence Section responsible for analyzing American ground forces' capabilities and intentions. Gottfried had personally interrogated hundreds multiple picture during operations in North Africa and Italy, creating comprehensive assessments of American training, equipment, and organizational capabilities. His reports consistently emphasized innovations that exceeded German expectations, but recent intelligence suggested capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about military organization. American ground forces demonstrated organizational flexibility that allowed rapid adaptation to changing operational requirements. German units excelled within their designed operational parameters but required extensive reorganization to adapt to significantly different missions. American units seemed designed for rapid mission changes without major organizational modifications, suggesting training and equipment systems that emphasized adaptability over specialized efficiency. The tactical implications were significant for German defensive plans. German defense assumed predictable enemy attack patterns based on standard military doctrine and organizational limitations. American units demonstrated tactical flexibility that made defensive planning extremely difficult. American commanders seemed willing to attempt operations that German doctrine would consider impossible or excessively risky, achieving success through superior coordination and logistic support rather than conventional tactical superiority. Gottfried's prisoner interrogations revealed training systems that produced soldiers capable of independent operation without constant supervision. German training emphasized discipline and adherence to established procedures, creating highly effective units when properly led and supported. American training seemed designed to produce soldiers capable of effective independent action when separated from normal command structures, allowing continued operations even when communication and supply systems were disrupted. The equipment analysis proved equally disturbing. American soldiers carried individual equipment that exceeded anything available to German forces, but more significantly, they possessed communication equipment that allowed coordination at lower organizational levels than German doctrine considered necessary or practical. American squads maintained radio communication that German doctrine reserved for company and battalion commanders, allowing tactical coordination that eliminated traditional command delays. Colonel Heinrich Waldmann supervised intelligence collection from all American theaters, coordinating information from prisoner interrogations, document analysis, communication intercepts, and reconnaissance reports. Waldmann's comprehensive assessment painted a picture of American military capabilities that exceeded German intelligence estimates by substantial margins. More concerning was evidence that American capabilities were expanding rapidly while German capabilities remained static or declined due to resource limitations. American industrial production supported military expansion that seemed to ignore traditional resource constraints. German military planning assumed limited production capability that required careful allocation between competing military requirements. American military expansion seemed to assume unlimited industrial capacity that eliminated the need to choose between alternative military programs. The result was simultaneous expansion of ground, naval, and air forces beyond anything achieved by any previous military power. The training infrastructure supported military expansion at scales beyond German comprehension. German training systems could produce high-quality military units but were limited by instructor availability and training facility capacity. American training systems seemed designed for unlimited expansion, suggesting instructor development and facility construction that could support military forces of unprecedented size while maintaining training quality that matched or exceeded German standards. Waldmann's analysis emphasized American military innovation that went beyond simply copying German techniques. While German military development focused on perfecting existing systems and procedures, American development seemed designed to create entirely new operational capabilities. The result was military forces that could attempt operations beyond traditional military doctrine while maintaining coordination and logistic support that ensured operational success. The intelligence picture revealed American strategic thinking that operated on timescales beyond traditional military planning. German strategy focused on immediate operational objectives with strategic implications considered as secondary factors. American strategy seemed designed to achieve long-term strategic objectives through operational decisions that might seem tactically inefficient but contributed to strategic goals across multiple theaters and extended timelines. As the morning briefing concluded, Kellerman reviewed intelligence that challenged every assumption about enemy capabilities that had guided German strategic planning since the beginning of the war. The Americans had not simply matched German military innovations but had exceeded them while adding industrial and organizational capabilities that transformed traditional concepts of military limitation and resource constraint. The implications extended beyond immediate tactical considerations to fundamental questions about German strategic viability. The Wehrmacht had achieved its early successes against opponents with limited coordination capabilities and restricted resources. American capabilities suggested opponents with superior coordination abilities supported by industrial resources that eliminated traditional military limitations. The result was strategic competition that favored opponents with capabilities beyond anything Germany could match or counter through traditional military means. General Reinhardt concluded the briefing with an assessment that would influence German strategic thinking for the remainder of the war. American military capabilities represented more than superior numbers or better equipment. They demonstrated organizational innovations that had transcended from military coordination from a complex technical challenge requiring extensive specialized expertise to a systematized capability that could be applied across global distances with timing precision that exceeded anything achieved in military history. The American achievement was not simply military but represented industrial and organizational innovations that had created new forms of strategic capability. Where traditional military power was limited by communication range, logistics capacity, and coordination complexity, American military power seemed to have eliminated these traditional constraints through systematic innovation applied across every aspect of military organization. The morning briefing at Wolfschanze had revealed evidence that Germany faced strategic challenges beyond anything contemplated during the early war years. The Wehrmacht had conquered most of Europe through superior military organization applied against opponents with limited coordination capabilities. American capabilities suggested opponents who had not only matched German organizational achievements but had exceeded them while adding industrial and technical innovations that created strategic advantages beyond anything available to German forces. Kellerman left the briefing with recognition that the war had entered a phase where German strategic advantages were being systematically neutralized by opponents with capabilities that exceeded German resources and organizational innovations. The Americans had industrialized military coordination in ways that transformed traditional concepts of strategic limitation, creating military capabilities that could sustain simultaneous operations across multiple theaters while maintaining strategic reserves for additional contingencies. The intelligence revealed American military development that went beyond simply improving existing capabilities to creating entirely new forms of strategic power. The result was opponents who could attempt operations that German doctrine would consider impossible while maintaining coordination and support that ensured operational success across distances and complexities that exceeded anything achieved in military history.
October 22, 1943, 13:47 hours, Berchtesgaden. General Reinhardt stood before the massive oak table in Hitler's private study, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the Führer's face transform from mild interest to complete disbelief. The comprehensive intelligence report lay spread across the polished surface, 47 pages of analysis that documented American multi-front coordination capabilities beyond anything previously imagined by German strategic planners. Hitler's knuckles whitened as he gripped the document edges, his voice rising with each sentence he read aloud. The intelligence had taken 6 weeks to compile and verify through multiple independent sources. American operations in Italy, the Pacific, and England were not separate campaigns managed by different commands but components of a single integrated strategy directed from Washington with precision that defied traditional military understanding. Every American action in one theater had been calculated to influence German decision-making in ways that benefited American objectives thousands of miles away. General Oberst Alfred Jodl, Chief of Operations Staff, had arrived from Berlin carrying additional intelligence that confirmed Reinhardt's most disturbing assessments. American staff systems had achieved coordination capabilities that allowed simultaneous planning and execution of operations across continental distances while maintaining tactical flexibility that German doctrine considered impossible. The Americans were not simply conducting multiple operations but had created unified strategic campaigns that spanned oceans with timing precision that suggested organizational innovations beyond German comprehension. Hitler's initial reaction was predictable denial. The Americans were industrially capable but militarily incompetent, their early successes in North Africa the result of overwhelming material superiority rather than organizational capability. German military science remained superior, American coordination was impossible across such distances, and their apparent successes were temporary advantages that would collapse when confronted with determined German resistance. But the intelligence reports contained evidence that challenged every assumption about American military limitations. Colonel Wilhelm Keitel presented intercepted communications that revealed American coordination procedures functioning with efficiency that exceeded German capabilities. American commanders in Italy were receiving operational intelligence from Pacific theater sources within hours of collection. Strategic reserves in England were being positioned based on tactical developments in Italy that suggested strategic thinking operating at speeds beyond traditional military planning. American logistics systems were maintaining simultaneous operations across multiple theaters while building reserves for additional operations that had not yet been announced. The technical analysis proved most disturbing to Hitler's preconceptions. American communication systems maintained reliable contact across global distances under conditions that would disable German equipment entirely. American industrial production was not simply producing equipment in unprecedented quantities but was creating integrated systems that allowed simultaneous deployment across multiple theaters with coordination that eliminated traditional logistics limitations. Reinhardt's strategic assessment focused on implications that extended beyond immediate tactical considerations. Germany had achieved early victories through superior military organization applied against opponents with limited coordination capabilities and restricted industrial resources. American capabilities suggested opponents with coordination abilities that exceeded German achievements while possessing industrial resources that eliminated traditional strategic constraints. The result was strategic competition that fundamentally favored opponents with capabilities beyond anything Germany could match through conventional military means. The Pacific Theater analysis revealed American naval operations coordinated with ground campaigns across distances that strained German understanding of military possibility. Admiral Chester Morrison was directing simultaneous operations from Alaska to Australia while maintaining strategic coordination with European operations that influenced German strategic thinking across multiple theaters. American naval construction was producing warships at rates that exceeded German estimates of American industrial capacity while simultaneously supporting ground operations that required unprecedented logistics coordination. Hitler's questions revealed fundamental misunderstanding of American organizational achievements. How could civilian leadership coordinate military operations across such distances when German military professionals required extensive communication networks to coordinate operations across European distances? The answer lay in American innovations that had systematized military coordination through organizational procedures that eliminated traditional command limitations rather than simply improving existing systems. Major General Ludwig Beck, recently recalled from retirement for strategic assessment duties, provided historical perspective that emphasized the revolutionary nature of American military development. Previous military powers had achieved coordination across extended distances through superior communication technology or exceptional leadership capability. American coordination seemed to function through organizational systems that could be replicated across multiple commands without requiring exceptional individual capability or technological superiority. The implications were profound for German strategic planning. German military effectiveness depended on superior individual capability and organizational efficiency applied within traditional military limitations. American military effectiveness seemed to depend on systematic innovations that had eliminated traditional limitations through organizational procedures that could be applied across unlimited operational scales. The result was strategic capabilities that could sustain operations beyond anything achieved in military history while maintaining coordination quality that matched or exceeded German standards. Beck's analysis emphasized American industrial integration with military planning that had created strategic capabilities beyond traditional military power.
American factories were not simply producing military equipment, but were creating integrated systems designed for specific operational requirements coordinated across multiple theaters simultaneously. American industrial planning anticipated military requirements months in advance while maintaining production flexibility that could adjust to changing operational priorities without disrupting ongoing production schedules. The logistics analysis revealed American supply systems that had eliminated traditional distance and quantity limitations through systematic innovation applied across every aspect of military logistics. German supply systems excelled within European distances but required constant adjustment and prioritization when extended beyond traditional operational ranges. American supply systems seemed designed for global operations with coordination procedures that maintained effectiveness regardless of distance, quantity, or operational complexity. General Wilhelm Baudouin Keitel presented intercepted American logistics communications that revealed supply coordination functioning with precision that exceeded German capabilities. American supply officers were maintaining simultaneous operations across multiple theaters while coordinating delivery schedules that anticipated operational requirements weeks in advance. American logistics systems seemed capable of sustaining operations while building reserves for additional operations without reducing support for ongoing campaigns. Hitler's strategic questions revealed growing recognition that American capabilities challenged fundamental assumptions about military possibility and industrial limitation that had guided German strategic thinking throughout the war. American achievements were not simply superior numbers applied through traditional military methods but represented organizational innovations that had transformed basic concepts of strategic capability and operational limitation. The intelligence assessment concluded with analysis that would influence German strategic thinking for the remainder of the war. American multi-front coordination represented more than superior military organization but demonstrated systematic innovations that had created new forms of strategic power. Traditional military capabilities were limited by communication range, supply capacity, and coordination complexity. American capabilities seem to have eliminated these traditional constraints through organizational innovations that had systematized military coordination across global distances with effectiveness that exceeded anything achieved in military history. Oberst Kellerman's final briefing presentation emphasized American strategic thinking that operated beyond traditional military doctrine and planning limitations. German strategy focused on achieving immediate tactical objectives through superior military capability applied within available resource constraints. American strategies seemed designed to achieve long-term strategic objectives through operational capabilities that could sustain simultaneous campaigns across multiple theaters while maintaining reserves for additional operations that had not yet been revealed. The American achievement represented industrial and organizational innovations that had created strategic advantages beyond anything available to German forces or any previous military power. Where traditional military effectiveness required choosing between competing operational priorities based on limited resources and coordination capabilities, American military effectiveness seemed to assume unlimited resources and coordination capabilities that eliminated the need for traditional strategic prioritization. Hitler's final assessment revealed complete recognition that Germany faced strategic challenges beyond anything contemplated during early war planning. The Wehrmacht had conquered most of Europe through superior military organization applied against opponents with limited coordination capabilities and restricted resources. American capabilities suggested opponents who had exceeded German organizational achievements while adding industrial and technical capabilities that had transformed traditional concepts of military limitation and strategic possibility. The meeting concluded with strategic recognition that would influence German defensive planning for the remainder of the war. American multi-front coordination capabilities made traditional German strategic advantages increasingly irrelevant while creating operational challenges that exceeded German capabilities to counter through conventional military means. The result was strategic competition that fundamentally favored opponents with resources and organizational capabilities beyond anything Germany could match or counter through traditional military innovation. General Reinhard left Berghof with authorization to restructure German intelligence priorities to focus on understanding American coordination capabilities rather than simply monitoring American force deployments and operational intentions. The intelligence challenge was not predicting what Americans would do but understanding how they could coordinate simultaneous operations across such distances with timing precision that suggested organizational capabilities beyond German comprehension or replication. The strategic implications extended beyond immediate military considerations to fundamental questions about German war aims and strategic viability. Germany had initiated the war assuming superior military organization could overcome material disadvantages through tactical innovation and operational superiority applied against opponents with limited coordination capabilities. American achievements suggested opponents with coordination capabilities that exceeded German innovations while possessing industrial resources that eliminated traditional strategic constraints. German strategic planning would be forced to acknowledge that traditional military advantages were being systematically neutralized by opponents with capabilities that had transformed basic concepts of strategic limitation and operational possibility. The Americans had not simply matched German military innovations but had exceeded them while adding organizational and industrial capabilities that created strategic advantages beyond anything contemplated in German war planning. The recognition that emerged from the October intelligence assessment would influence German strategic thinking throughout the remainder of the war. American multi-front coordination had demonstrated organizational achievements that went beyond superior military capability to represent systematic innovations that had created new forms of strategic power applicable across global distances with effectiveness that exceeded anything achieved in military history. Kellerman's post-meeting analysis emphasized that German strategic challenges extended beyond immediate tactical problems to fundamental questions about military possibility and industrial capability that had guided European military thinking for centuries. American achievements suggested that traditional limitations of distance communication and resource coordination had been systematically overcome through organizational innovations that had transformed basic concepts of strategic capability and operational limitation. The intelligence assessment had revealed American military development that represented more than improved existing capabilities but demonstrated entirely new forms of strategic power that could sustain operations beyond traditional military limitations while maintaining coordination quality that matched or exceeded established military standards. The result was strategic competition that favored opponents with capabilities beyond anything Germany could match through conventional military innovation or resource allocation. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.